Ready.
Mayor?
You're on.
Okay. Let's call to order this Monday, November 15th, 2021, Redmond Newton Falls Council meeting. So if you could turn off any devices that you might have or set them to vibrate and stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Short prayer. Precious Lord, dear God, we thank you for your just your attendance here, dear Lord, for being with us, for directing us, for guiding us. We just pray that you help us and give us wisdom to give you the glory, dear God. We do pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, whenever Ms. Smiles is ready to call for the roll.
Zimmerman.
Here.
Bariak.
Here.
Spletzer. Present. Ranchi.
Here. Okay, no special presentations.
Yeah.
Public comments are limited to the items on the agenda. Your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes unless previously requested, and we have actually 3 individuals. The first person is Miss Julie Lemon.
Good evening. Julie Lemon, 2750 East River Road. First, I'd like to bring up number 2 under new business. There are a few things I'd like to discuss about the agenda tonight. Ordinance 2021-28. I understand the nature of the ordinance and believe it's a good measure and step in bringing our finances in order. However, I do have another suggestion that seems to me like a better alternative. I would ask that council consider amending this ordinance, and instead of it being $50,000, perhaps a better number would be $25,000. And I'd like to use the following example, an exhibit for informational purposes. On March 13th, 2021, former city manager David Lynch hired contractor Jake Lista for flooring. This included tile and carpeting. Per the vendor audit trail I had requested within the past few months, I learned that both the tile and carpeting were 2 separate invoices. They are both, again, on March 13th, 2021. The tile came in at $24,830.45, and the carpet came in at $24,830 even. It doesn't take much to be able to determine that the flooring, which included both carpet and tiling, should have been on one invoice. And it should have been one price for both items. The difference was a mere 45 cents. The total bill just on this one vendor for repairs to this building was $101,822.45 per the vendor audit trail that I had requested in my email. I do not believe that interim city manager, Mrs. Purdy, or any future city manager would attempt to circumvent the council's decision, but if the past has taught us as a community anything, it's that the risk is not worth it. I found in the codified ordinance from Bryan, Ohio, an example that I would like to share with you, and I believe that it's something the council and administration should look at maybe adding to our charter and codified ordinances under the finance department. Because I looked, it's not there. And it would be section 5.08 of their charter, which is splitting contracts to avoid bidding. No person designated by this charter as a contracting officer or authority shall willfully cause or allow any contract or order to be split or divided into separate orders to contracts in order to avoid the requirements of competitive bidding as provided by the charter. The next item I would like to discuss is number 3 under the new business, which is ordinance 2021-29. I am extremely happy to see this issue being brought to the floor. Mr. Schrader, I am in total agreement with you and what you said about these ordinances. I agree that the generic statement that for the peace, prosperity, et cetera, is not a validated reason to declare an emergency. However, I'm just one person that agrees with you. I had done some research in August that actually validates your statement. The research I had found and came from a legislative law firm in Cincinnati, Ohio. I had actually sent it to Ms. Spletzer and the mayor and former Councilman Kropp. The research came from Wood and Lamping, and they also share your opinion. They're a legislative law firm. And it's called emergency clauses in local legislation. Are you using emergency language correctly? In Ohio, local governments are generally permitted to enact ordinances with emergency clauses, so they take effect immediately. While the timing can be altered in a charter, Ohio statutes provide that ordinances take effect 30 days after they are enacted, which is Revised Code 731.29. The intent of the 30-day window gives residents an opportunity to file a petition for a referendum to appeal the ordinance. But an emergency clause makes the ordinance effective immediately. Consequently, emergency language eviscerates the public's right to a referendum. The public tends to give extra scrutiny if an agency routinely uses the emergency clause without good reason. Courts' authority when it comes to emergency clauses, basically, they roll with what the council wants because otherwise it takes away the power of the governing body. But when that power is abused, an emergency is something that needs to preserve the public peace, health, or safety of the municipality. An ordinance declaring an emergency must state that reason for the urgency. Merely reciting it is that it's necessary to protect the peace, health, or safety is not sufficient. They 100% agree with what you said at the other meeting. So in order to state a sufficient reason, an emergency clause needs to provide enough detail to inform the public of the basis for the agency's decision. And that's from Wood and Lamping, again, legislative law firm in Cincinnati, Ohio. And this was actually written and published July 28, 2014. So, per my research today, I also learned that as of October 2021, the average income for a city clerk in the state of Ohio was between $41,754 to $51,459 per year. Our city clerk was making more with that in overtime, and now for the last 12 months, a very comfortable contract. The difference between Mrs. King making around $58,000 with overtime and her contract is a difference about $1,208.33 a month. The average household income for a family in Newton Falls as of 2021 is $54,688 with a poverty rate of 13.09%. The police chief was an hourly employee before his contract. Per research, the average salary amount for the police chief in Cincinnati, I just chose Cincinnati, it's pretty darn big, which I believe this to be the smaller rural parts of Cincinnati, which was 307,000 people roughly, is about $72,574 for that chief. This does not include the major metropolitan area, which is about 2.2 million people. That's a really big difference in population compared to the price that the good people of this community had no choice but told they were going to pay in outlandish contracts. As for the certification of available funds, I believe ORC Section 5705 is very clear and detailed on the matter. Again, I agree with you 100% and Mr. Schrader and your legal opinion. I have one question though. Who is liable for the funds that have been paid out in these illegal contracts? And during your comments, can you explain if the city is even able to regain the funds from those who benefited from the illegal contracts? These contracts should never happen, folks. And I firmly believe that they were nothing more than the former city manager and law director's way of buying loyalty and silence so that their devious dealings when it came to the city and their dereliction of duty would perhaps be protected from coming to light. Mr. Zimmerman, you should be ashamed of yourself for voting for these shameful contracts and during a pandemic, no less. I thank the rest of council and the current administration and staff for everything that they are doing, bringing these items to the floor and taking control of our town. Thank you.
Mrs. Klein.
Jamie Klein, 312 Ridge Road. I want to talk about these smart meters. On October 18th, they were forced onto my home while my husband and I were both working. I usually work till 12:45 at night. At 10 o'clock at night, a little after, I got a text from my husband. He was really confused, and he says, "Our garage light is on." Knowing that I don't have electric going to my garage, I said, "There's no electric, you're crazy." And he's like, "No, there's something going on." So he goes in the house. Everything in my house was blinking, and still confused, he opened the front door to find this. And on it, it has a box check that says, "Changed your meter." I immediately got scared, ran out of my job, called the mayor. The mayor knows I was freaking out, like, what am I supposed to do? I have 2 buildings with wires hanging in them that have live electric going to them. So I rushed home. I left work early, 2 hours early, and I rushed home, and I called the police department. Non-emergency number, by the way. And I said, I need an officer out at my house, and I need something done to 2 meters that are on my property that should have never been on the buildings. And a cop, I was sitting outside the whole time in the freezing cold, and a cop drove really slow by my house and then fled off. So I called the non-emergency number again to be told Bill George was coming to my house. I said, that's not good enough because somebody trespassed on my property going through a gated privacy fence to get to a building that wasn't even supposed to be turned on. Bill George showed up, then 2 officers showed up. The first thing that came out of one of the officers' mouth, he thought he was being funny, and he said, "You should have let your buildings burn. The city would pay for them." I said, "That's funny because we're broke." And then Bill George is standing in my driveway, knowing that he's not allowed to go in my fenced-in area without permission, said, "I'm waiting for her to give me permission to go in." We went in, and all of my husband's stuff was moved away from our garage so that they could get to the meter. He removed the meter off the garage, checked the meter on the building, which thank God somebody had the brains to put the boots on. I felt safer right then and there. I went in the house after Bill George left. And while I'm sitting in my living room, I noticed that my refrigerator is not running at all. No noise, nothing. My husband and I had just went and bought groceries the day before. I had to call my son immediately to come and get groceries that were thawing out in the freezer. I called Pam, who I'm really upset because everything's being passed the buck. It's Clara's fault. No, it's the city's fault. No, it's Clara's fault. I don't know who to give this bill to because it took me 2 weeks to find a new refrigerator, because if anybody's trying to find a refrigerator that you can afford, good luck. But I finally found one 2 weeks later. It's almost 2 months before Christmas. Something that I should have never had to pay for. I had to come out and hurry up and find some money to pay for. To be told I gave up my right, and I was told this by Miss Smiley's and Mr. George, who came to my house yelling at me on my front porch, telling me that there was electric to your garage. And I said, I know for a fact there wasn't electric to my garage. So then he proceeds to tell me, you're not going to know to unplug your appliances. With Julie as my witness, I have constantly said, if they're coming to my house and forcing these meters on my house, I'm unplugging everything and turning off my electric box when they get there, so nothing happens. I work hard for everything I get. And his little companion dude that was with him says, well, it could have been a power outage. Yeah, it could have. It could have been in a power outage, but it wasn't. The city forced a meter on me without even letting me know that it was coming onto my house. And now I'm stuck with a bill for a refrigerator. I run around my house every day before I go to work, and I cut off everything that has electric. I cut off the boxes that all of my electronics are plugged into. I flip the switch. I am afraid that something else is going to happen while I'm at work because somebody snuck onto my property. The man, whoever it was, I would like charges filed against him for trespassing. You have to open my gated fence and go all the way into the back to where my garage is to get to it. The law says, yes, I do give up rights to electric or utilities that are on, not that have no electric going to them. That garage had no electric going to it and should have never been touched. If the utility departments were doing their jobs, they would have known what buildings you can touch, what buildings you could not. Those two buildings should have never been turned on. And another thing, the opt-out, I was told if I opt out of these, I would be paying for 3 meters. That's not fair to me. I don't think any of you guys have over $1,000 to pay for an opt-out. I don't want these meters on my property, and a lot of people in Newton Falls don't. My suggestion is do away with them, sell the meters, and drop the program, because there's going to be more issues than just my refrigerator. You have people on 24 hours a day oxygen, like one of my neighbors. I have 2 elderly neighbors. They were both outside. I said, did you know you got an electric meter put on your house? One said, yeah, I was at the grocery store. The other was like, no, I didn't. I said, right there it is, look. She didn't even know she had an electric meter put on her house. They are sneaking doing this. And another thing, on the bottom of this, it says, an adult, 18 years or older, must be at the location during installation. It's on this. Mr. George's excuse, they changed the water meter on the top to electric meter. That he told them to cross this out and check this and put changed meter and go ahead and change the meter. So my suggestion is just drop the meter program. Give them to Dave Lynch, let him pay for them.
Okay. The last person that previously called and has extended time is Mr. Lawanawasu.
Well, I'm going to kind of follow up after Jamie, I guess. I asked Tom Gregory to make a slide to put up. I think Julie Smiles made copies of my most recent bill that you should all have in front of you up there. Does anyone up there, can anyone up there tell me where the bill part shows how much I'm paying for my electric meter and how much I'm paying for my water meter every month? Anybody? That's what I thought. I called over to the utility office, and Andrea very kindly gave me the figures of what we're paying. We're paying $7.50 a month to have an electric meter attached to our house, and we're paying $18.17 to have a water meter attached to our house. Do you see that on the bill anyplace? If you're at home, look at my bill that Tom's got up on your screen. You don't see that anyplace on there. The answer is that it's just figured into your electric rate, and it's just figured in to your water rate. That's the answer that was given to me. That's $25.67 a month. Now, I still don't understand how it's just figured in there when everything else on that bill is a line item. There's a line item for water debt, there's a line item for sewer, there's a line item for electric. I tried every way possible to back it out and figure out how my 750 and 1817 was in there. I couldn't figure it out, but supposedly 2567 in my bill is meter charges. So I started thinking about it. Now they want to put smart meters in. And if I opt out, they want me to pay $350 for new meters plus an opt-out fee. Hold on a minute, let's think about this. I pay a service charge to Dominion, and that monthly fee will fix my meter if it breaks. It pays for them to come out and read my meter. I pay a monthly fee to Spectrum. My remote quits working, or my box doesn't work, or my service goes out. They'll come out and take care of it, or they'll gladly send me a new box or a new remote. It's happened, so I know it's true. So why wouldn't that be consistent with the city of Newton Falls for the $25.67 that I'm paying every month? And then I start thinking even further. I've been in my house for 25 years. In 25 years, that's 300 months. Let's just say that $25.67 has stayed the same the whole time. I don't know that it has, but let's just assume for tonight's purposes that it has. That's $7,701 in service charges that I've paid for my meters over my 25 years in Newton Falls. So no matter what kind of meter I want, I've more than paid for it through the years. Not to mention that the city still has my original deposit to establish service that they've used for the last 25 years. So if I opt in or out, the meter fee and reading should cost me nothing, because we're already paying those fees and have paid those fees every month. And by the way, are those meter fees, or were those meter fees ever placed in a meter replacement fund? Let's look at some of the other problems with these meters. I can see that there's the possibility, if we get the right or maybe the wrong city manager, obviously not Mrs. Pretty, but if we get another wrong city manager in who wants to rape the city utilities, like has happened for the last couple city managers, I could see that it could easily happen that when AMP Ohio starts charging us a little bit more during the peak operating hours in the summer, that maybe the city manager would just program those meters to charge just a little bit more to us. How would you know? Think about it. How are you going to know? You'd know if you have the dumb meter, because they have to go house to house during that time and take readings. Smart meter, you'll never know. Same with the water. During the peak usage hours of the water, charge you 5 cents more a gallon for 8 hours a day. How would you know? You're not going to know. I could tell you numerous stories of damage done by these meters being replaced when homeowners were not made aware of them being replaced. One of my elderly neighbors never even knew that her meter was replaced. Her husband had passed away earlier in the week. I check on her every single day. She was home all day, she's home every day. I go to check on her after work. I checked in on her after work. We're sitting talking. She said, "Oh, by the way, we had another one of those power outages today. I said, we did? That's funny. My son usually calls me when we have one of those power outages and let me know or text me at work. I went to the front door. The same tag that Julie has was on her, Jamie has, is on her front door with the exact same thing. She was in the house all day. No one knocked on the door. No one rang the doorbell. They just yanked her meter off, changed it, and she thought it was a power outage. It's not bad enough that she lost her husband. What if they'd have blown up some of her stuff? Another person in our neighborhood works from home, running 4 computer systems that she sends orders all over the United States and receives orders all over the United States from, for a major company. The guy comes, is unbuttoning the electric meter, about to yank it off the base. Luckily, the husband was outside and stopped him. If he'd have blown up those computers, there'd have been a major problem. Because that could have affected her company really, really bad. And now, the citizens are starting to get these letters, and they're saying that if you don't schedule within the next 2 weeks, your service is going to be shut off, and it's in yellow with great big red letters. Absolutely ridiculous. They were told no more meters for 2 weeks. I know, Mrs. Pretty, I saw it on the website. But I also know that at 18 East Liberty, my neighbor, because the fire department was there the other day, our own city electric department came and turned on their electric, and our own electric department defied your order and put a new smart meter on the house when they turned the electric on. And I know because I checked a week before, because the gentleman had cancer and hasn't lived there for a year, and he had the same dumb meter that he's had for several years, the same meter that's on my house. But the night of the problem they had with the fire, Bill George took the smart meter with him when he left. And I asked the gentleman, and he said, that's what they put on when they turned on the thing. So your very own electric department is putting on meters that you gave an order, that you said, stop it, we're not putting any more on. Unbelievable. I realize that not all of you on council were here when this decision was made. But if you remember, most of you remember, in 2020, when this was first passed as 2020 Ordinance 10, we took out a referendum on that. Council was unhappy about that, so they made it Ordinance 2020-26 and made it an emergency. And Mr. Schrader, you might want to look into this, because the point of making an emergency was to get rid of our referendum. And the point of their emergency was to add a customer service number. That was the emergency that was for the health, peace, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Newton Falls. I'm not sure that's an emergency by definition in the state of Ohio. So that whole ordinance, 2020-26, may not even be valid.
Okay, Mr. Luwanawasu, your time is up.
Okay.
Okay, anybody that like 3 minutes? If you'd like 3 minutes, step forward, give your name and your address.
Rick Curlin, 611 North Canal, excuse me. I first want to say that City Council's been doing an admirable job so far, I think. I think the opportunity for the City Council to strive and make a lot of corrections to the very many mistakes made by the previous administration is enormous. I think one thing you could take care of, I mentioned this to Mr. Granchi, in regards to the contractor registration, simply have the City of Warren building director come in and speak to you. They were one of the first in Mahoning and Trumbull County to have contractor registration. Not only is it archaic not to have it, Portage County, the entire county has it. I understand the reasoning that some are saying it's too much on a contractor, but it's not. If you're, for instance, if you're a member of the military, you can get a great discount on everything. But really, if you want to know the down and dirty of everything, have him come in and talk to you. He'll let you know. The other thing I want to speak on is the ordinance repealing the 4 ordinance of the pay structure. I compliment our new law director on that. There are a few that have been talking about that. In fact, it's the 1-year anniversary that has been enacted. I would think that the intelligence of the people up there is enough to know that this is almost criminal the way it was passed. Mr. Zimmerman passed it, I don't know why, and to get away with that is just unbelievable. There's no consideration both ways. We have no consideration. I mean, they can do their job any way they want to do it, and we can't do anything about it. The other thing which is very important, I think, also is the emergency. They never said what the emergency was, perhaps to get another paycheck. The other thing, too, as far as the smart meters is concerned, what's going on is perhaps something that we have discussed earlier. These subcontractors that are going into houses have no insurance, no bonds, no security. We don't know what they're doing. We can't control what they're doing. Their own employers who employ them as a subcontractor can't do it either, unless we've checked to see if they are bonded and insured. So how do you know that anybody is putting a smart meter on your house? They have no insurance, no bond, they can do anything they want. We employed the people we employed, we've already paid it. The audacity of Mr. Zimmerman to say in another matter, as far as our lame duck First Ward councilman, to enact selling the transmission lines. Oh my goodness, I give all of you much more credit than that. No wonder he's a lame duck. I mean, it's pretty obvious. The one thing we have is our electric utility. A large article has come out that said in the future is electric, which is manufactured by natural gas. But can you imagine, we're ahead of everybody. There's probably 18, maybe 20 communities that own their own utilities. And we want to sell some of it? No, this council won't do that.
Okay, Mr. Curlin, your time is up.
Very good, and I thank you all. I wish you all a lot of luck. I think the future is bright.
Laura Nyhazel, 227 North Center Street. I'm coming up to talk about motion, item number 6. Motion to appoint Julie to the vacant at-large council seat starting December 1st. So, some information. What if a newly elected is filling a position that is currently occupied by an appointee? Those who are elected to fill a position that had been filled by a person appointed to, or fill a vacancy, may take the oath of office and assume position as soon as the election results are certified. This newly elected official then fills what is called a short term after they take the oath of office. And they would retake the oath of office as of January 1st. So, even though I agree with this motion, it's moot because both seats that are currently unoccupied and by an appointee should be filled by December 6th meeting. They can take the oath of office as of November 17th, and they would start filling the position as of that day. So even though this is a great idea, it's moot because they should be taking that position for both seats as of the 17th. Thank you.
Brian Axiotis, 315 Adams Street, Newton Falls. This whole contractor registration thing, I'm curious. In Newton Falls and other towns, we had a contractor going around stealing a bunch of money off people and did it numerous times. Finally got brought up on charges for it. Would that protect against this kind of person in Newton Falls? Would it? I'm curious, because, you know, if it's not, if it's just them paying a fee to go around and rip people off, then there's no point in legislation. I mean, there's no teeth to it. You know, that's the way I feel. I'm just curious, that wording. You know, other reason I'm up here is I saw there was something on the agenda concerning the Planning and Zoning Board, and it's a resolution, and I'm trying to understand the point of that, because obviously I am on the Planning and Zoning Board, and we don't try to get involved in politics, but this kind of seems that council is trying to inject itself into what the Planning and Zoning Board does, and I think we're very objective and very fair to anybody that comes to us. So it seems like injecting politics into that process is not necessary. The next thing I have to say is that, you know, for the longest time I heard the words come out of your guys' mouth last meeting that you want to go in a different direction. Well, we wanted to go in a different direction with Mr. Haney, so we got rid of him. And a different direction went to Mr. Lynch. And we were told how fine of an individual Mr. Lynch was. Then, until he wasn't fine. So then we had to get rid of him. Now we're here. Now we're back to what I call nepotism. We keep putting people in place that we know.
Mr. Axiotis, you have to stay on something that's on the agenda.
Well, a lot of us didn't stay on the agenda today, up here speaking. But my point is you guys can do better as a council. You know, there's plenty of qualified applicants out there for the jobs that we need filled here. Let's try to get away from people who have relationships with council members, people who are friends with others, because that's not gotten us anywhere. Let's get qualified individuals in here to do their jobs. And let's make some change. You guys want to have change, that's how you change things. Get people who have responsibility to you guys, not friendships. Boss-employer relationships. That's the way I feel. Thank you, sir.
Anna EB 50 West 9th Street. Are they putting meters on homes again? Are they not as of yet? Who's going around with a clipboard and going to all the homes they put them on and writing something down? That was happening on my street today. And it was an Eclair truck, but it was from West Virginia. And I have the license plated at home, yeah? So I don't know what that was about. Are they reading meters? What are they doing? It doesn't make any sense to me. I thought everything had been paused. So that's my question. Thank you.
Bill George, Electric Superintendent. I just wanted to talk to you guys about the AMI. There's been a lot of stuff said tonight that was not true. There was some stuff that was true. And I'm not up here to slam anybody because that's not me. The only thing was that there was one comment that made it really hit hard, was to say that I was up yelling at a customer. That is not true. It never would be true. So just to make that point clear. And in the transmission lines, I would hope that you do not pass this. I think if you guys do this, this is a mistake. I understand that the voters passed this. I think the voters were tricked into this. And the people that voted for this, all they saw was a reduction in rate. That is not true. That was false. It would have helped for a couple of years till that money disappeared, then the rates would have had to go right back up. So, I mean, think about that before you vote on this tonight, I mean, because it's just not true. Our rates in about 3 years will drop a little bit anyhow, I mean, providing what the crystal ball has for us then. But because our loan will be paid off for AMP. So that's a big chunk of money that'll come off, and, you know, that'll help the rates right there. So, and that's, I think some of the thoughts behind that before was if we sold the transmission lines, you would take that money, pay that loan off. So yes, it would drop the rates right away for that little bit. But once that money runs out, then you're stuck again, and you don't have the transmission. So think about that. I mean, you know, you're looking out for the future for the city. I wouldn't sell it. That's my opinion. I was stopped from talking about it before. I think you guys would be fools if you do that. That's all.
Okay, anybody else?
John Richards, 212 Albert Street. I want to encourage the people to come down to the caucus, because when we have those prior to the meeting, because I want to address something that is on the agenda tonight, and this is the sidewalk. And first off, I understand that these council people are in a difficult position. I realize that it's often hard to come up with the right answer because there's so many of us to please. But this sidewalk, the whole idea originally was to help the citizens by doing an aggregate to save the citizens money on the people who had to have a sidewalk repaired. And this has morphed from that simple, good idea into a phase 1, a phase 2, and a phase 3. Why do we need 3 phases to implement a simple idea to have an aggregate that will save people money? Because phase 2 and phase 3, now we're going to cost the citizens money. Because if your neighbor has a sidewalk and the other one down there has a sidewalk and there's none in between, the city is going to force you to have a sidewalk. And if you're in an area, whether it's the numbered street or my street, Albert, where it only goes so far down the street, the city at some point in one of these phases is going to force me to spend thousands of dollars to put a sidewalk in when we don't want it, we don't need it, there isn't the traffic to justify it. So I understand as a council person, it's not easy to deal with these issues, but don't let simple ideas grow to be a big program that has to be managed, and rather than helping the citizens, it costs us money. Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else? Mr. Stemper, are you coming up here? Or?
Mark Stemper, 1023 Page Court. I'm also the city zoning inspector. I would just ask that to look into passing the R.W. Sidley. We have a rule on the books that not many people know. Once you do not use a commercial property for over 2 years, it reverts back to residential. The R.W. Sidley property is now residential, and all they've asked for is for it to be commercial so they could actually sell the property. They have a potential buyer on the hook as soon as this is approved. It has gone through planning and zoning. It has been approved as a variance, and now just awaits your approval. So thank you very much.
All right, if we don't have anybody else, then we'll go ahead and move on to reports. First off, we'll start off with Mr. Zimmerman, if you have anything for Ward 1.
Yes, I do. I unfortunately could not attend the planning and zoning meeting that was on November 2nd. Mr. Granchi went in my absence. He'll provide a report for that meeting. The fire board meeting that was scheduled for November 3rd was canceled. It's the regular meeting, that was a special meeting that was scheduled for right after the levy. Ended up being passed, so we didn't need that meeting. The regular meeting is scheduled for tomorrow night. When I'm out on my walks in the evenings, people come up to me and ask me about this $420,000 everyone keeps talking about. People ask me, why do people keep saying that they don't know what happened to that money? Do people actually really know and nothing about that money? So I did some research. I found that in that council meeting back in April of last year, 2 people up here were here present for when that meeting was discussed. You go into that meeting, 25 minutes into that meeting, it is discussed on pulling that money from the Treasury Investment Board. It was discussed by Mr. Bariak, and the mayor was there present for it also. Now, why they say they were unaware of that money being moved, I do not know. I cannot answer people when they ask me why would they even say that, and I still couldn't provide an answer for that. I would hope somebody would be able to tell me why people would say that.
What's your point of order? That's
Which
all
way
I have
did I
to say.
vote on that money, sir? You're going to throw that out there. You want to say, what way did I vote? To take the money or not to take the money?
You voted no, but I'm
Oh,
saying,
thank you. That's all I want to know. Don't be throwing innuendo at me.
I just said you discussed it.
Oh, I was present. You always make somebody look dirty.
Crosstalk's against council rules.
You were there.
Sorry.
You discussed
I'm
it.
tired of putting
Crosstalk
up.
is still against council rules.
Thank you.
And that's all that I have.
Okay. Mr. Bariak, do you have anything for Ward 2?
I apologize to the public tonight. I'm just getting tired of being slammed. Innuendo, false comments, leading people on to believe somebody's doing something. I'm not here for that. I'm here to move this community forward. I don't have anything right now to report, Mayor, and if I forgot, I'll...
Sounds good. Thank you. Ms. Spletzer, you have anything for Ward 3?
Yes, I do. I attended the Pluck a Duck fundraiser on November 7th, and I also received an invitation to the Veterans Day Assembly at the school on November 11th. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend in person, but I did watch the online version of that. And just one more correction, Mr. Zimmerman, it was $462,000. That's all, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Granchi, do you have anything for Ward 4?
Yeah, I attended the planning and zoning meeting. We spoke about the dog park, rezoning the parcel that's on the agenda today, as well as the sign variance and the sidewalk program. I also attended Pluck a Duck and VFW Spaghetti Dinner. Those were both very well done, and I had a great time with both of those. But that's all.
All right, thank you. I want to just thank everybody for coming tonight, and thank individuals that call me for the emails, texts, et cetera, and for the different ideas and the feedback that I get from the community. A lot of individuals come up with a lot of different ideas that I appreciate. I was also able to attend the Pluck a Duck fundraiser, attended a great event for the county, or with the county, for a flag waving ceremony to thank our veterans for their service. And again, I do want to thank the veterans out there for your service. I was on the phone today reaching out to state representative for help in the process of bringing the Dunkin' Donuts to Route 5, just so that you know that our economic development team is working hard to bring a Dunkin' Donuts to Route 5, and that's all I have. Do we have Mr. Housley available for the phone, or is it too late? Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Law Director, do you have anything to report?
No, unless you have any questions.
Okay, anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns for Mr. Schrader?
Yes, sir. I have several questions about what occurred at the special meeting last week. How were we able to deviate from the minutes in order to have swearing-in ceremonies for people present? And how were we able to make decision coming out of executive session, which I believe to both be clear violation of the sunshine laws, where they were not advertised as part of the agenda for those meetings.
Well, neither were violations of the sunshine law. First off, the notice of the meeting said you were going to discuss personnel matters, including discipline. So yes, you have the right to vote on that issue. There are a couple ways to do that. One is the notice, which you gave, and that is enough. You can vote. You did vote. That's it. It's done. The second way to do that would be to say, to add that you could vote after executive session. You don't have to. Sometimes people don't because it's boring as all get out for people to wait an hour. You come back, you adjourn the meeting. So it's kind of hard to know whether you're going to vote after an executive session or not. And by the way, if you had a line on there that said, we're going to discuss employee discipline and here's what we're going to do after we discuss it, that in itself would be a violation of the sunshine law because it would have indicated you already decided before you ever went in to discuss it in executive session. So, yes, you did it right. And if somebody doesn't like it, they're welcome to take us to court. I hope you don't because we can't afford it right now. And you're going to lose, but you're welcome to try to do that. But it'll have to be on your own dime.
Well, according to two
because
past
we're not
meetings,
paying
sir.
for people's private attorney's fees anymore. And it looks to me that like that might have been done before I got here. Now, you had one other question which related to what, swearing in?
Yes.
Why can't it be done?
It's not on the agenda.
It turned out that, well, we have the right to correct mistakes, sir, and we were correcting mistakes. It turned out that nobody here, not the police chief, the former law director who had to be sworn in because you made him a salaried employee, the prior city administrator, nobody had ever been sworn in. Now, there's a state statute that requires not only that certain village employees take an oath of office, but also it has to be a specific oath. Somebody brought that to my attention, so we looked into it and found out that nobody ever got sworn in. We did a little research further on that to make sure, well, what's the result of that? Well, we couldn't find any case where they said the city manager for 5 years or whatever, since he wasn't sworn in, nothing that he did was effective. Couldn't find a case that said anything like that. But still, it's a state law. The only person that purportedly got sworn in was Mr. Lynch, who apparently wrote his own oath. There was an unsigned version in his personnel file, and it didn't contain any of the language required in the state statute. So you got to correct things that are wrong, and that's what was done.
Do you know who brought that to people's attention?
Pardon?
Do you know who brought that to people's attention?
You know, I've been so busy, I can't remember.
That would have been me. I asked for a copy of.
Well, good. So
Miss
why are you
Pretty's-
complaining because we corrected it?
Okay.
Because I was looking for.
Mr. Zimmerman, I'm going to go and give somebody else the opportunity to have their first address, and if you want to continue, then you could use your second address. Does anybody have any comments, concerns, questions for the law director? No? Okay. Would you like your second address, Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I have two past council meetings here from October 11th and October 30th, where both the public notice and the agenda both say, here's the October 11th notice, adjourning into executive session to discuss the finance department, finance director, employment, and possible discipline, possible action to be taken following the executive session. Outlined that a possible action could be taken, whether we wanted to or not.
Okay, did you listen to me when I
Excuse
answered
me, sir.
your
The August
previous-
30th one also says the same thing. The meeting will be for the
Point of
purpose of
order.
adjourning into executive
What's your
session.
Point of order.
To interview.
What's your point of order?
Question has been asked and answered. Enough.
I have the floor.
Okay, but
It's a point of order. He's already answered you.
Well, I was about to tell him that.
The fact of the matter is, I said there were two ways to do it, remember? One was to do it the way you did it at the last meeting. The other one was to say there could be some action afterwards.
So assume that with every time we go into executive session.
Pardon?
Assume that with any time we go into executive session.
I'm saying there's two ways to handle coming out of executive session. One is to have your notice say, here's what we're discussing. The other way is to have it say, here's what we're discussing, and we may take action afterwards.
But just why would it be clear? Why would you need to say that coming out of executive session, that unnecessary actions may be taken for the city finances for last meeting, but not for coming out of executive session to make a decision on employment, discipline, or dismissal? Why is one listed and one not?
I just said you could do it either way. I don't know how to make that more clear.
Why bother listing one for the one and not the other?
Hey,
I'm sorry?
Why bother listing one for one and not the other?
I'm a very...
Council may have a preference as to which one to use.
And I'm-
So use whatever method you want to use, but you can use either one. I didn't draft either one of the damn things.
Well, that's why I'm
Frankly,
asking,
sir.
I'm asking for you to put your point out here.
Okay, what I'm saying is you can do it either way. Now, nobody's asked me what my preference would be, and it doesn't matter. You can do it either way. It's very simple.
Do you have
If you say
anything
so.
else, Mr. Zimmerman?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for losing my temper a little bit there.
All right, Ms. City Manager, do you have anything to report?
No, I've given you all my report if you have any questions.
Okay, does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns for the city manager?
Yes, I do. What is the position of a city administrator, and do we have one?
I'm sorry, what?
What is the position of a city administrator, and do we have one?
Currently, we have a city administrator, yes.
Who is that?
Julie.
But you're on record with telling someone that we don't have a city administrator when they asked you if we had that position. And can you please tell me where in the charter it says we have a position of city administrator?
She's not technically a city administrator. That's your email address, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So-
So she's not actually a city administrator. It's
So
her
we
email.
receive emails from the city administrator, but we don't have a city administrator.
Correct. There is no city administrator.
So what is the email about?
An email address?
So we receive email from someone that doesn't exist. Thank you.
Sort of like
Do you want to
that,
answer
okay.
that question?
Anybody else have?
I don't
anything for
see the point of
city
any
manager?
of it, to be honest.
Me.
When did
But it's
that
not.
email address, when was that started? After you got here? Before?
Yes, yes, because Julie came on board to help with some things that were going on. So we changed a few email addresses and we added a city administrator email address.
Okay.
Does anybody else have anything for the city manager before we move on? Nothing else for the city manager?
Oh, I have one final question.
All right, well, let me see if any of these guys want a first address with city manager. Anybody? No? All right, you want a second address, Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes, sir. Are information requests being postponed, being delayed any? Is there a reason that I haven't received information on things I requested well over 2 weeks ago?
Are you talking public records requests?
Public records requests and things that I requested for myself that you passed on to all of council every time I ask a question.
I don't do anything with public records requests, so, other than I see them.
So who do they get passed on to?
Kathy gets the public records requests and then Al reviews them.
And is there a reason that I received email replies from information requests from a secretary of a law firm and not from our law director or Kathy?
Okay, what did you ask, what didn't you get, and what are you talking about?
Just why was there a reply from a secretary of a law firm, not from you or from Kathy? Thank you.
What was
We don't
the
have an
issue?
answer for that. Thank you.
What was the issue?
Just my information request. First request was, do we have an interim law director? If so, who is it Can you tell me who it is? Can you tell me if we have more than one? She said she'd ask you for permission to tell me whether we had a law director or not. That was her reply to me. She had to run it by you, and then the mayor said, I'm getting close to interfering with appointments because I asked if we had a law director. And then you send an email.
Well, obviously, you have an interim law director, I'm sitting here.
So why did she have to...
That's the...
Why did she have to ask you for permission to tell me?
Pardon?
Why did she have to ask you for permission to tell me?
What we've done, and I thought we were caught up with most of these records requests, they were getting inundated by records requests. So they ran them past me to make sure that it wasn't going to cause any kind of legal issues or any problems. So basically, they gave me all the records requests. Between myself and Christopher Immel in our office, I think we've answered them all. And I'd sent an email to Kathy before I realized she was on vacation and asked her to check to make sure that we did. Now, a lot of times I will dictate something, have my secretary type it, and then have her send it. So if you're offended by who replied, first I thought you were mad because you said you didn't get a reply. Now you're saying you don't like who replied.
There's still plenty out there that I haven't received yet.
Pardon?
There's still plenty out there that I haven't received yet.
Okay, well, you tell me what you didn't receive, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Okay, I'll send that email to you again, sir.
You never sent it the first time.
Because it was
The
passed.
first email was sent to Kathy King.
Correct.
Not to either the interim city manager or me. Now, you also asked if you got a resume. I believe we sent you a
I
copy.
never asked if we had a resume. I never asked if we had a resume. Resumes were forwarded in response to my question on whether we had a law director or not.
I think we're coming full circle here.
Okay, well, what we need to do, whatever the first question is, I'll just have the city manager just put the dot on it, finish it, because we're going to move on. Time is up.
Oh, if I may have one final question, since I was delayed in the response.
Your
please.
time is up. I mean, we've won in a big circle. I mean, I think I could answer that for you. When there's 4,700 people that live here, and there's a pile of public requests, sometimes it takes time.
Well, can you answer if we have an agreement in place with the law director?
Do we? I don't know. It's an
Ms. Brady,
administrative
can you answer that,
issue, and
please?
that's
We are
above my
working
pay
on an
grade.
agreement.
We're still working on it. How long has he been in place and we don't have one yet?
We're moving on.
Thank you.
Changes to tonight's agenda, I don't believe there's any. Approval of previous minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the November 1st, 2021 caucus?
So moved.
Okay, that was Mr. Granchi and
I'll take the
Ms.
second.
Spletzer. Did you get that, Julie? If I start talking too quick or whatever, let me know, because I keep forgetting that you're taking notes down there too. Any discussion on the approval of the minutes here? Okay. If not, whenever you're ready, Ms. Smiles, to call for the roll here on this.
Granchi,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Zimmerman.
Yes.
Okay. Minutes approved for the caucus meeting. November 1st, 2021, regular meeting. Do we have a motion to accept? So moved. Do we have a
Second.
Okay. Granchi, Bariak, any discussion? Okay. If no discussion, whenever Ms. Smiles is ready to call for the roll.
Bariak,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Granchi,
Yes.
Zimmerman.
Yes.
Okay, minutes approved for the November 1st regular meeting. November 8th, 2021 special meeting. Do we have a motion? So moved.
Second.
Okay, Granchi, Spletzer, any discussion? Okay, if no discussion, whenever Ms. Smiles is ready to call for the roll.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Granchi,
Yes. Okay, minutes approved. Public hearings, we have none. Unfinished business. Okay, ordinance 2021-22, if the clerk could read it.
We're going to bring it up off the table.
Oh, that's right. Wait, no, she reads it before we go ahead and, okay, yeah, if you want to go ahead and read the ordinance.
Ordinance 2021-22, 2122, an ordinance requiring the registration of contractors operating within the city of Newton Falls.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Boriak, any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to motion to put this back on the table until next
Okay,
meeting.
until when?
Next meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right.
There, I'd like to say something to the public, Mayor. if I
Go
could.
ahead.
For those of you that didn't catch the caucus, there are some issues that we want to fine tune, and we'll get it as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, if not, whenever Mrs. Smiles is ready to call for the roll.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Granchi,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Okay, it's tabled until the next meeting. Okay, number 2 is ordinance 202123, and whenever Ms. Smiles is ready to read.
ordinance 2021-23, an ordinance establishing sidewalk districts and assessment procedures within the city of Newton Falls.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I'd also like to table this until next.
I'd like to amend that. I'd like to table this until the first meeting in January. There's a lot of work, there's a lot more work that needs to be done on this one, so I would prefer January as a better time.
Okay, do we have a second to table it until the first meeting of January?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, if not, whenever.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Boriak. You have the floor.
Just to tell the public, this is morphed out a little bit, and we want to bring it back the best way to benefit the village people. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, if not, whenever Ms. Smiles is ready to call for the roll.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Granchi,
Yes.
Okay, tabled until the first meeting of January. Number 3, a motion to accept the opt-out recommendations attached. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, if no second, the motion dies because of a lack of a second. Okay, number 4, okay. Ordinance 2021-19.
It's till the first of the year.
What's it? Oh, yeah, you're right. Table until the first meeting of 2022. Thanks, Mr. Boriak. Okay, 4. Okay, under new business, ordinance 2021-27, whenever Ms. Smiles is ready to read.
ordinance 2021-27, an ordinance rezoning specific lots on North Canal Street and Lock Street in the city of Newton Falls.
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
That's North Center Street, not North Canal Street. It's North Center Street and Lock Street if it's Sidley's property.
Okay, can, Ms. Smiles, can you have that changed on the agenda? Okay, and since it's pointed out, I don't even think that we need to make a
What's the
motion.
law director? It's just, instead of Canal Street, sir, it should be North Center Street.
It's correct on the actual legislation. It's
Is it?
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Granchi, Mr. Boriak, any discussion?
Yes, this is one of the topics from the zoning meeting. This is the old concrete plant, because it had gone unused for 2 years, it was rezoned. Using that plot as residential would be an absolute nightmare, just between the demolition and all the concrete that is poured over there. So they approved the zoning change, and it is now on our labs. And I support this legislation.
Anybody else? Okay, if not, whenever Ms. Smiles can call for the roll.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Granchi,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Okay, passes. Okay, number 2 is ordinance 2021-28. Whenever Ms. Smiles is prepared to read.
Ordinance 2021-28. An ordinance to require the approval of council for contract expenditures over $50,000 and declaring an emergency.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Granchi, Ms. Spletzer.
I'd like to be heard, please.
Okay, Ms. Spletzer, you have the floor.
I agree with Mrs. Smiles, or I'm sorry, with Mrs. Lemon when she got up and spoke and encouraged us to take that to $25,000. I think that would be something that we should amend the amount from $50,000 to $25,000, because as I read during the one meeting, all of the different legal expenses, they were all under that $50,000 threshold. So I just think that, you know, since we are in such an emergency state of finances, that it would be better for us to be a little more cautious and go with a figure like $25,000.
Okay, so you want to make a motion to amend?
Motion to amend.
Do we have
I'd
a
be comfortable
second?
going even lower than that, honestly.
What?
I'd be comfortable going even lower than that.
Well,
Everything on that legal spreadsheet we got was under 25,000.
Okay, well, if we have a second for the 20,000, we'll go with that. If nobody makes a second, that'll die. And if you want to go ahead and make your own motion to amend.
what is the motion now, for 25 or 20?
25.
25.
Can I have the floor?
Well, let me see
Oh, she made the motion for 25?
Yeah, if nobody makes a second, it dies. And if you want to amend it, if you want to make another motion for a little bit lower, you can do so.
Do I have the floor, sir?
I mean, right now, we have the original ordinance on for 50 unless somebody makes a motion to amend it.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to amend just to discuss the amendment with the 25,000.
That's what he just did, 25,000, and nobody
I thought he
seconded.
did 20.
Ms. Spletzer did that?
No, she did 25,
She did 25.
and nobody seconded.
I said I was comfortable going lower.
Okay, do you want to make a motion to?
Before we do that, can I ask them if there's any stipulations
ask.
legally to doing that?
He's
Is there
your-
any ORC that
Yeah, he's your interim law
says
director.
how much we have to be able to do, or anything like that?
Well, it can be any amount you want, not under, the bid amounts. But the problem was, the evil before was you didn't have any limit.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had a city manager that was pretty much spending whatever he wanted to, and either did or didn't tell you. So the evil we want to cure here is to set some amount. Now, it should be a realistic amount as you determine, and I don't think there's any expense that the interim city manager has authorized yet, and anything that would be 50,000 or over, and anything she's already authorized, this wouldn't apply to. This is from tonight on. So I don't know if, is that something you can live with, is 25?
Yep.
Okay, then the administration has no problem with the 25 either. And frankly, the idea came from the administration. We think there ought to be a limit so you have a little more control. I hope that answers it.
Ms. Pretty, what's the lowest you're comfortable with?
Probably 20. 25. Okay, there was no second to the 25.
Oh, yeah.
Authorize that
Yeah.
bid request for the dam, so
Right.
I'm not sure what that's gonna come in at, but.
Forgot about that, thank you.
Well, there was no second to the 25, so if somebody amends it
I
to
seconded
25, did you second it?
Yeah, Tessa put it on and I seconded it.
Okay, then we would be in discussion for that. Okay, if Ms. Spletzer made the motion for 25 and Mr. Bariak seconded at 25. Is there any discussion on the amended ordinance
Yes.
at 25? Mr. Bariak, you have the floor.
Without getting myself into digging a hole, there's been a lot of spending that the people didn't even know about. I would be happy, I don't want to tie her hands, or Mrs. Pretty's hands, and if she needs more money, we could call for an emergency meeting in 10 hours and give her that authority. But we can't tie her hands. Hopefully, the people that we hire are trustworthy. We got burned a couple times, what can I say? But I'm not wanting to tie her hands, and I'd like to give her the opportunity to do what she wants at best. I will say one thing. I've learned more in the last month than I did in the last 2.5 years about what's going on with this city, and it's shocking. I think she's forward. I think she would bring this to council anyhow if it was something. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a question on what is the emergency?
It makes it go into effect immediately.
But what is the
That's
reason?
the emergency.
What is the reason for the emergency? It says for the
Who
public.
are you're directing that to Miss Pretty or to the?
To whoever's the sponsor, whoever wrote this as the emergency in here. It says for the preservation of public peace, health, and safety.
It also then says, for the reason of that setting a realistic monetary limit on the city manager's contracting authority is immediately necessary to promote the efficient administration of the city government, and provided it receives the necessary affirmative votes requires for passage as an emergency measure, it shall be effective immediately, otherwise it shall take effect and be enforced at the earliest period allowed by law. So basically.
So the only reason this is an emergency is to make it pass immediately, correct? Make it take effect immediately.
No, sir. What it says, and you'll notice this if you're still here, in the future.
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
I'm here now. You don't need to address me that if I will still be here. I am here now. Thank you.
I apologize. I probably should not have said that. The ones that are bad are the ones that just say we're doing it as an emergency measure necessary for public peace, health, safety, and so on. But what the emergency here is the language that says, therefore, for the reason that setting a realistic monetary limit on the city manager's contracting authority is immediately necessary to promote the efficient administration of city government. That's the emergency. You will notice that every one of these that I draft from now on, or that Kathy drafts, I've instructed her to include the following language, which is going a little beyond what you asked, but clarifies that if it receives the necessary affirmative votes required for passage as an emergency measure, then it's effective immediately. And if it isn't, it takes effect and would be in force at the earliest period allowed by law. And what that means is at that point it would need 2 readings instead of the 1. So that's the emergency.
Okay, would that be it, Mr. Zimmerman?
That's all.
Okay, would anybody else like an address on this?
Yes, I would definitely call our current fiscal status an emergency. So anything we can do to tighten down the straps on this and get more control from council and therefore the representatives of the people, then I'm good with that.
Okay. Ms. Spitzer, would you like an address on this? No? Either one of the three. Do you guys like a second address? Okay.
I'd just like to say, we're trying to police ourselves and show the public that we're going to put restraints on ourselves, which I'm sure the public won't go against.
Okay. Mr. Zimmerman or Mr. Granchi, would you like a second address before we call for a roll?
I'd just like to say that I'm not sure if an emergency exists, to not have this done properly and have public comments necessary. Or I just want to be sure that we're not handcuffing anyone going forward. The lower we make this amount, the more it's going to handcuff. We may have more than $25,000 in legal bills coming up for the past several months that we have no agreement in place yet with Mr. Schrader's firm. So we have no idea what that's going to be. So, I mean, it's just handcuff, possibly, without knowing what an amount can be. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Granchi, do you have anything before we call for the roll?
I do not, but this is to the vote to amend.
Okay.
We're voting on a $25,000 amendment, sir?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Miles, if you want to call for the roll.
Granchi.
Yes.
Spletzer.
Yes.
Bariak.
Yes.
Zimmerman.
Abstain. Okay, and it passes. Mr. Law Director, would that pass, and is that ordinance pass, or is that just the amendment? Do we have to?
Now, that was the amendment. Now you got to take another vote on passing it or
Passing it.
not.
That's
And
what
Mr.
I
Mayor,
thought.
may I add one other thing?
Sure.
The courts have said that you have to indicate what you believe the emergency to be. You could be wrong, and the court's not going to get into analyzing whether it was a real emergency or not.
Okay.
But they do insist you at least say what you believe the emergency to be. Now, it's legitimate for Mr. Zimmerman to not believe it's an emergency, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Any one of you could decide you don't think it's an emergency. That's fine.
Okay, so now we need somebody to make a motion to pass the amended.
I make a motion that
We just did that.
No.
oh,
No, it's been amended. This is now to pass the,
okay.
as amended.
I make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-28 in its amended form, sir.
Yes. Do we have a second? Okay. Any discussion on this? Okay, if not, whenever Ms. Smiles is ready to call for the roll.
Zimmerman.
No.
Bariak.
Yes.
Spletzer.
Yes.
Granchi.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance passes.
You need to do a second reading.
What's
Yes.
that?
It's an emergency.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So let me see which number was it again here. Okay.
New business number 2.
Yeah, ordinance 2021-28. Do we have a motion to pass it as amended as 25,000?
So moved.
Do we have a
Second.
second? Okay, and anytime Ms. Smiles is ready to call for the roll, or discussion on that, Mr. Boyer?
We only, this is to the law director. Do we need 4 votes tonight to pass this as an emergency?
Yes,
Huh?
I believe you do.
Well, then it,
Then never mind.
well, then it failed the last time, didn't
Yes.
it? You abstained?
No, we got three votes. It was
voted no.
It was 3-1. Okay. Yeah, you're correct. Okay.
Well, then it's a good thing we added the language about it'll become effective as according to law, because that means you need to give it another reading.
Okay, yeah,
at the
well,
next
you know what,
meeting.
it passed for the first reading, so it's going to have to move forward to another one. It just doesn't pass tonight,
Right.
okay? All right. Well, I'm glad you guys caught that. All right, number 3, ordinance 2021-29. Whenever Ms. Smiles is prepared to read it.
Ordinance 2021-29. An ordinance repealing ordinance 2020-34, 2020-35, 2020-36, and ordinance 2020-37.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Granchi, Bariak, discussion?
Yes, this is my legislation. These are illegal several different ways from everything. I've done my own research on the overseas and everything like that, and that was confirmed by Mr. Schrader. He came up with the same research that I did. So this should be a no-brainer.
Okay, is that all you have, Mr. Granchi?
It is.
Okay, anybody else?
I have a question.
Ms. Spletzer, you have the floor.
In the first paragraph, I would like to know what the words after void are supposed to be. It looks like there's a typo there and
Yeah, I'm sorry, I put Latin in there and shouldn't have probably. It means void from the beginning. It says void ab initio, which means it's void from the beginning. It was never effective.
oh, so ab initio.
Yeah, void
The
ab
Latin,
initio.
okay. It just looked like a typo to me and I didn't,
No, it's a Latin word. The void is English, but ab initio means from the beginning. And again, I'm sorry, I should put English language in here, and I apologize.
Okay. Did you have anything else, Ms. Spletzer?
Yeah.
No. Okay, Mr. Boriak or Mr. Zimmerman, did you have a first address here?
Yes.
You have the
I have
floor.
my question is, it says here, it is your opinion that the ordinances never received the 2 readings as required by the charter of the city of the village of Newton Falls.
It's my opinion that it passed, did it not pass as an emergency?
No, sir.
I thought it passed on first reading.
No, sir. I have the agendas from November 16th and November 23rd, 2020. I have the minutes from those meetings where it was discussed and voted on twice, November 16th and November 23rd, and passed both times. I have discussion on the 23rd, public comments and everything listed for that date. An emergency clause was added at the end, I believe, in order to make it take effect immediately instead of the 30 days. But the reading of the ordinances themselves passed over 2 meetings.
Now, let me get this straight. It was read at 2 meetings.
Correct.
And at the second meeting, you added an emergency clause.
I didn't add it to it, but it was
I'm
added
sorry,
to that.
somebody added an emergency clause.
I believe that is correct. I'm trying to remember.
Pardon?
I do believe that somebody amended that to have that emergency added to where it took effect right now.
Well, it didn't take effect right then. They shouldn't have added it as an emergency clause. If they added it as an emergency clause after the second reading, then one might reasonably infer that that was added only to prevent a referendum. And I'm never going to suggest you ever do that. But that's a bad idea. So I believe for 2 reasons these things are illegal. And the first, and I appreciate the lady that came up with a law firm that agreed, but more important, as to the emergency ordinances, the Ohio State Supreme Court agrees. The case is State ex rel. Laughlin versus James, 115 Ohio State 3rd, 231. So that was decided in 2007 already. So there's no question this thing did not pass as an emergency. The other reason the contracts themselves are invalid is that they don't contain a certification of availability of funds by the fiscal officer. None of them do. I looked at all 4 of them. And the case on that is also from the Ohio Supreme Court, 115 Ohio State 3rd, 387. It's City of St. Mary's versus Auglaize County Board of Commissioners, and that also was decided in 2007. So I believe you could pass this tonight. I'll be more than happy to take a look at whatever Mr. Zimmerman wants to give me as far as the history of this thing. And I'll admit that I just got here, so I don't know directly what happened back in 2020. But there had to be a reason for adding the emergency clause, and the emergency clause that was added was defective as outlined by the Ohio Supreme Court. And then once it was passed, you entered into 4 contracts, not a one of which had that required certification of availability of funds. So it's still my recommendation you pass this. If I look at whatever Mr. Zimmerman has and I feel differently at some point, I'll let you know.
Okay, Mr. Boriak, you have the floor.
I'm going to have to ask Mrs. Splitzer, or you, Mayor, November 16th, I was locked out of this building. I couldn't even come into the building.
Yes.
I don't know, do you know why that was, anybody? But they had Mrs. Braymeyer sitting with the city manager and the law director right in here, but they wouldn't let me in. So I don't know what that was all about, but you know, the people got to figure out, maybe I might have said something.
Okay, is that all you have, Mr. Boriak?
That's all I have.
Okay. Does anybody want a second address? If no second address, then whenever Ms. Smiles is ready to go ahead and call for the roll.
Granchi,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Ariak,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
No.
Okay, passes. All right. Okay, number 4 is Resolution 36-2021. And anytime Mrs. Smiles is ready to read.
Resolution 36-2021. A resolution requesting and directing the Planning and Zoning Commission to remove from the table and approve a variance requested by Newton Falls Commerce Association for a principal ground sign to be placed in exactly the same location as a prior sign pursuant to codified ordinance 1151.03.02.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Boriak is second. Any discussion?
Yes, I move to amend this resolution, remove and directing. I didn't notice that when I sponsored it, and I don't like crossing into those.
What did you say?
Removing the words "and directing" from the resolution.
Okay. Okay, do we have a second? Or you know what, you don't, I think that if, yeah, do we have a
Already
second?
seconded it.
Okay. Miss,
I do have a question. I know the location used to be a doctor's office. Was that Dr. Tabbitt's office?
Dr. Verbanek.
Verbanek.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion before we go ahead and call for the roll to amend? Okay, if not, whenever Ms. Miles is ready to call for the roll to amend.
Ariak,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Granchi?
Yes.
Okay, resolution amended. Resolution 36-2021. Do we have a motion to pass it as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Granchi, Boriak, any discussion on it?
Yes, I just want to put out there, I was asked if I would like to sponsor this. I made sure that I asked to make sure that it wouldn't supersede anything. It was just council giving their approval, and Ms. King told me that it could be done in either order. So that is why I was okay with sponsoring something that was still being done by the zoning and planning word.
May I have the floor, Mayor?
Or is that all you have, Mr. Granchi?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, you have the floor, Mr. Boriak.
The Newton Falls Chamber of Commerce has done a tremendous amount of work to that building. It is added to the community. I don't want to bring in other instances where the church had a variance to have their sign. What is that, the Christian church?
Yeah.
But I can't see any reason why we can't let them put it back where it was. I would hope that the planning and zoning, I understand that we have rules, but I would like to ask them to work with us on this one.
Okay, do we have any other, anybody else want to first address?
Yes, sir. We have a planning and zoning board for a reason. We have other boards and councils and other groups of people working to supply information to council for a reason. If we don't want to go by their recommendations, what good are they? I will not step on anyone's toes. I will not force anyone or request from planning and zoning or any other commission that we have here in the city that they do something based on what we want. They should be bringing information to us. It should not be the other way around. We should not be giving them information. They should be bringing it to us on their recommendation for us to vote on. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Spetzer, would you like a first address?
No, thank you.
Okay, does anybody want a second address?
Yes,
Mr. Bariak.
Oh, no, go ahead, let Mr. Granchi go
Mr.
first.
Granchi, you have the floor.
So on one hand, yes, I don't want to step on any commission's toes, and I'm not going to. It's not our duty to direct any commission to do anything. However, I've lived across the street from this place for 3 years, and I've seen everything from my own Ford Focus to a Tesla to a Ford F-250 to I pretty much any motorcycles all the time. No one has any problem seeing out of there. So I mean, I see it literally every day because I've lived there for 3 years.
Okay, Mr. Bariak, did you want an address?
I really have a hard time with the people that are out there in the trenches trying to make this a better community and bring more business in and have a decent chamber of commerce where we're working to bring businesses and we're working to have a decent community, and they ask for one little thing. This is not personal with me, but it's just, I want to help any way I can instead of hinder. And I think that just with what they've shown, what they've done to that building, we want to move forward. I will vote for this tonight.
Okay. Mr. Zimmerman, did you want a final address?
No, sir.
Okay, if not, whenever Ms. Smiles is ready to call for the roll.
Bariak,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
No.
Granchi,
Yes.
Okay, passes. Okay, number 5. All right, I'll give you a break. It's a long one. Number 5 is a motion to direct the interim city manager to proceed with the sale of the 69 kV transmission lines and related equipment to AMP Transmission LLC for $4.2 million. As presented in the sales agreement and based on the results of the November 2nd, 2021 election, the referendum on ordinance 2021-02, the Newton Falls Electric Rate Reduction Act, the City Council not passing ordinance 2021-13 and regularly scheduled council meeting on November 1st, 2021. Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Zimmerman. Do we have a second? Okay. Motion fails due to no second. Okay. Number 6, Ms. Smiles could read that one, I'm out of wind.
a motion to appoint Julie Stempert to the vacant at-large council seat starting December 1st.
Okay, before I ask for a motion on that, I wanted to ask the law director if this is an improper motion due to us being unable to do anything until the votes are certified later this week. How do we handle that?
I'll try not to make this too complicated. Since it's a vacant position, you could appoint her now if you felt like it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it turned out that somehow the election computers gave the wrong votes to the wrong people and she wasn't certified, then all you have to do is, at that point, appoint whoever was certified as the winner. But the interesting thing, and we researched this, both that position and Mr. Zimmerman's position were appointed at various times.
Yes.
The result of that, according to your charter at section 3, vacancies, says the individual filling the vacancy shall be appointed only until a general election can be held for the office. So once the votes are certified, both of those positions are filled by whoever was elected. My understanding is they'll do that the 16th or 17th or sometime?
It's the 19th.
The 19th, okay. So once those votes are certified, those individuals can be sworn in and they become the council member. You don't have to do anything, the charter says it.
So for clarity, should we go forth with this, or should we just give Ms. Spetzer the advice to, on Friday, go down to the Board of Election, get your stuff you need?
You mean Mrs. Semple?
Yeah.
Well, this one only,
Yeah, we
You can pick mine up
we
if
already
you'd
had
like.
this. But go down and get your stuff maybe Friday, get in touch with the city manager, and we'll have you sworn in maybe Saturday.
that's actually what I'd recommend. First off, the problem, I was going to recommend that if you wanted to do something like this, the time is when they get certified, not in December. I understand what was attempted to be achieved here.
Yeah.
And the unique thing about the at-large position, I don't want to individualize it, but the unique thing about the at-large position is it's vacant. So you could have appointed somebody. If the sense is you wait till they get, because we're only talking about a week.
Yeah.
If you want to wait till the certification of the votes by the Board of Elections, then whoever they certify gets sworn in, and they show up at the next meeting, and they're the council person.
So either way, we're all on the same page here, and we could move forth with the motion, or you could pull it, Mr. Zimmerman, whichever you want to do.
I'd like to ask Lauder one question.
Okay.
Mr. Schrader, under an appointment, if this was started October 4th when Mr. Crop resigned, it's still in the charter that we have 60 days to appoint, up to 60 days. I mean, I know it doesn't make anything because I want to work with the council. What I'm saying is, under appointment, we're not trying to stretch it out.
Okay, I'm sorry, I worked all day and I didn't catch the timeline there. When did Mr. Crop resign?
It's October 4th.
October 4, November 4, December, oh, okay, that's where you came up with December 4. That would have been the 60 days. No, it doesn't matter. The fact that that the person resigned, it doesn't, he was actually appointed to serve an unexpired term as well. So the point is, when you have somebody that's elected that for whatever reason dies, resigns, leaves office, however they manage to leave office, and you appoint somebody, your own charter says that's only effective till the voters decide who's going to be in that seat. The whole point of your charter is the voters trump council in that sense. You can appoint whoever you want, but if they don't win an election, then you have to seat whoever does get elected. And it is kind of a short term. That person is only going to be in office about a month and a half, but they get appointed to that seat, take the place of whoever was appointed into those particular seats, and then in January, they get sworn in again for a full 4-year term. And that one, I don't need the Supreme Court to decide. We already have a relatively recent decision from your own common pleas court that says that, yeah, that's what your charter says.
Okay.
Mr. Schrader, I just want the public to know that we're moving with the way the charter says, it'll be before December 1st.
Yeah.
It should be on there.
Yeah.
So that people understand that.
With that being said, did somebody want to make the motion to appoint Julie to the vacant at-large council seat starting December 1st, 2021? Do we have a motion?
Starting when?
I'm just reading what it says in here, December 1st, 2021. Do we have somebody that wants to make the motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Okay, it dies as a result of no second, but Ms. Stempert, like we said, go out to the Board of Elections Friday, get your materials you need, get in touch with the city manager, we'll square you away this weekend or whatever, so it's the same either way. Lastly, a motion to authorize the expenditure of $2,000 per year at a local merchant to provide hot or cold drinks to the City of Newton Falls Service Department employees. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Granchi. Do we have a
Second.
second? Spitzer. Okay, any discussion?
Ms. Pretty, could you rehash what you were telling me about this with, this is actually, by law, we have to do this?
Yes.
Yes, the state auditors, this has been done for years, that they've given the employees the drinks. But the state auditors recommend that it be passed by council, that there's something on the books from council allowing this to happen, at a local merchant. So that's why we're putting it on there now.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Granchi? Okay, anybody else want to address on this? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Zimmerman, you have the floor.
This is a great thing that we have done in the past, but if we are so strapped on money, how we just laid off 2 security officers. How can you look them in the eye and say, we don't have money for you, but we have money to pay up to $2,000 a year to our city employees? Don't get me wrong, this is a great thing to provide coffee, to provide water. There have been talks on Facebook saying that, where you said that OSHA declares that we have to buy coffee and water for our employees. And what you posted also doesn't say that. It just says potable water must be supplied to our employees, which back at their garage, they have water. They have, we probably have Gatorade buckets we can put on the back of the truck filled with ice and water, and everyone can have a cup to fill it up. Don't get me wrong, this is a great thing. I've worked outside in the wintertime. I've brought my own coffee to work. I worked outside in the summer. I bring my own Gatorade to work. I don't rely on my boss to take me to Circle K to buy me a Polar Pop because it's hot. So, I mean, if we had money coming out our ears, this would be a great thing to provide maybe a little morale booster in the summertime or in the wintertime. But if we are that tight on money, I just don't see how we can possibly vote for this. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a question.
Mr. Borak, you have the floor.
This is pretty, is this money, have we all allocated that? Has this been allocated?
Yes, it's been allocated every year.
Usually we just wait for the ice sculptures to melt and they drink that. Ms. Spitzer, did you want an address? Okay, anybody want a second?
Yeah, I'd like to just point out, it's important to note that this is only $166 a month to provide for all of our employees.
Okay.
I'm probably one of the most fiscally conservative ones up here, and I have no problem with this.
They can't get booze with this, can they? Oh, we're in good shape.
Okay. Mr. Zimmerman, would you like a second?
No, just like I said, I cannot look people in the eye that we're laying off or reducing hours for and say, you have to go, but we can afford to pay get everyone coffee and water from Circle K. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Whenever Ms. Smiles is ready to call for the roll.
Bariak?
Yes.
Spletzer?
Yes.
Granchi?
Yes.
Zimmerman? No.
Okay. Passes. Public comments, second section of public comments is open to non-agenda items, so give your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Julie Lemon, 2750 East River Road. Mr. Schrader, if you go on the city's website, under Mayor and Council, scroll all the way down to the bottom, you will see minutes and videos and meetings from January 1st, 2020 to present day. Go under November 23rd, 2020. Former Councilman Brian Kropp actually brought up the fact that the meeting that soon to be leaving Councilman Adam Zimmerman was talking about November 16th was actually canceled by Mayor Klein. It was posted in the paper, but they had it anyway. He actually showed in the video the Tribune Chronicle canceling the November 16th meeting. Yet the Vice President of Council canceled it anyway without proper, and then they held it anyway without proper notice to the public. So, and that did happen. So if you go and watch the Zoom meeting, but you can see it on the city website, November 23rd, 2020, that is where you will get your information, sir. You're welcome. Further, the city Christmas tree lighting is coming up. Lemon Drop Bake Shop, LLC, is going to be hosting the costume contest, and the prize money so far has been coming from Tiger's Den, Pizza here in town, Cafe 534 drive-thru. They're donating to the cash prize. I'm giving a gift certificate for the costume contest. Now, what it's going to be is the most festive, the most original, and the funniest. Obviously, we want people to have some decorum because children will be present. No cousinetties, no cousinetties. But I want to see your festive holidays. I want to see if someone, I mean, it's Nutcracker. It don't have to be the Nutcracker, but festive, fun, get into the holiday spirit. I want to see Hallmark Channel. That's what I want to see. In the words of Tracy Colosimo from last year, Hallmark. That's how she thought about our hometown Christmas. So if you cannot make it, then, and you would like to submit to the costume contest, email me, the lemondropbakeshop.nf@gmail.com, and you can submit that way, or find me on Facebook and we'll take care of it. If you want to send a picture, you can submit that way as well. Thank you.
Jamie Klein, 312 Ridge Road. One, I am going to say on record, Bill George, make an appointment with me and come get this dumb meter off my house. Second, Adam, you have shown us in the first ward, time and time again, why you were voted out. And I just hope you just step down and just quietly walk away and let Mike take over. Thank you all for hearing my rant. I'm sorry, but I also am upset. I had to walk outside to have somebody call me a liar. I'm definitely to anything you want to call me, but I'm not going to lie to you. The man stood on my porch and yelled at me about my garage meter. And I want to know from Mr. Schrader and Miss Pretty, how do I get reimbursed for my damages? And can charges be filed for going on property they should have never been on?
The second one, I would need to research. The first one, the company that's installing these things, I think.
I've contacted them. I've contacted Pam Pretty. I've contacted Julie Smiles. I'm getting nowhere.
The company that's installing it should have some kind of insurance to cover that. It would seem to me it's probably not necessarily very rare that they're dealing with electric, and all of our electric devices are so complicated anymore. A surge will knock out the light.
But it wasn't a surge.
Okay, well,
It
listen,
wasn't a surge.
with this being public comments, it's really kind of
But
inappropriate to do the back and forth.
It wasn't a surge.
Okay.
It was the city doing it. And here, another thing I have a problem with, when Mr. George came out the first night, he said, I have nothing to do with it. Next time he came out, he's overseeing it. What's the truth? Does he not have anything to do with people putting these meters on, or is he overseeing the people putting these on? It's not both ways. He told me and my husband the second time that he spoke to the guy who came on my property. So you're either overseeing the people or you're not. It's not both. So who's lying? Definitely not me.
Okay. Anybody else?
Anna EB, 50 West 9th Street. I just have a question. Ms. Pretty, I know you're busy and I know you're going crazy, but it would be helpful if during these meetings you would let the public know what's in your report, because every one of them, I've given it to you. Any questions? We have no idea what's in it. The public, we have no idea. In the last few meetings I've been to, you've given it to them, but we have no idea what's going on in the city. So I would appreciate if you would just speak on it with us here. Thank you.
Recurlin, 611 North Canal. The contracts were passed as an emergency. That's how they were passed. I wanted to remind everyone that on December the 4th, we're going to have a breakfast with Santa and Mrs. Claus. That will be at the VFW. We are going to have breakfast. We are going to have dances with Santa. We are going to have 115 special baskets that were made up for children. It's the first time in 20 years that I've ever seen it done, first time in Trumbull County. But the baskets will not be adult baskets, they will be for the children. Tickets are $10 per adult, $5 per child. That is negotiable if you see Santa. So we would like the entire community to come out. It's going to be a lot of fun at the VFW. 9 to 12, yes, we said that. But we're looking forward to it. It's going to be great. And it was passed as an emergency. Very good job, everyone. Thank you very much.
Jim Luana, 10 East Liberty Street. First, I want to say, Bill, I don't have anything against you personally. We've been friends for a long time. And any comments I made about the meters doesn't not reflect personally on Bill George. And I've been friends for a long time. I dispatched for fire. If it looked like it reflected on him, I don't want it to reflect on him because we have been friends for a long time. But Mr. Schrader, I'd like you to go back and look at ordinance 2020-10. And the history of this is that it was passed. We took out a referendum on it. And the previous council and manager knew that we had enough signatures, almost triple the amount of signatures we needed. So they went and passed ordinance 2020-26 and added that emergency language, the customer service phone line, and the sped up installation schedule, saying the meters were decrepit and a life safety hazard, and basically did away with our referendum. We took out another referendum on 2020-26 and pushed it all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court did not rule specifically on that, but they did quote ORC 731-30, which I'm sure you're familiar with as part of the emergency language, which says that it has to be for the public peace, health, and safety or welfare of the village. And I don't think adding a public service hotline falls under that category. I don't know where we're at with these meters or the opt-out now because it wasn't taken off the table, and I think under Robert's Rules of Order, that can't be brought back now. I'm not sure. But what I'm saying is, council, the residents did a referendum on this. The manager and the prior council knew that we did not want this. We took out a referendum to stop the bonds on this. So that even told you more that we didn't want this. Now we're putting in these meters. We're putting in light bulbs. We're putting in furnaces and air conditioning units. We're putting them into buildings and spaces that we're not even using, that we won't be using, and places that we're not using. We're broke. We need to take out a loan to pay back money that we already don't have. Just stop it. We are absolutely broke. Just stop the whole darn program, take the loss, sell what's left, and move on. Over 300 people signed the original petition saying they didn't want the meters to start with. And Mrs. Spletzer, when people were calling her about the original opt-out papers that Mr. Lynch sent out, she told them, and she was honest and said, don't do anything about the opt-out until we figure out the program. So yeah, only 25 people opted out originally, but there may be a lot more people that wanted to opt out, but didn't because their council person told them not to.
Okay. Mr. Wanawasi, time's up.
Bill George, Electric Superintendent. I just want to say a couple things. One, I'm disappointed in you guys tonight for not doing something with this AMI. I understand, you know, the people are complaining and stuff and we have issues. This is going to cost us more money now. And it's not a threat or anything, but we have signed contracts. We're going to have to pay this contract out one way or another. So now you're actually, my thoughts are you're actually inducing lawsuits now. And I don't know where we're going to stand with that. Because now my hands are tied. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with any of this stuff now. Because the water meters have been going in steadily. I mean, they've been declining since this whole thing has started because people wanted it to stop. So the appointments have been stopped. The electric meters, we stopped on it. So we have put some in that were shut off for some reason. If we've had meters that had issues, we have replaced them with the AMI. I don't know what to do now. I don't know how I ended up being the one that was in charge of all this. I mean, just because I've come up here to speak a few times, it seems like I'm the one that everybody's looking up to for answers. I'm very disappointed that you guys have stopped this for so long. I don't know where we move. And then on another note, I applaud you guys for stopping the sale of the transmission for now. I think that was the best thing you guys have done. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Kyle Storm, 1900 Pale Adams Road. Mr. Zimmer, I want to commend you for having to deal with what you go through up here. Because I see that Mr. Barry, I can't help but throw jabs at you before the meeting. And what kind of council person does such a thing? To throw jabs at a fellow council person. You should all show respect to each other. And I don't see why the audience needs to interrupt you and say unrude things and whatnot during the meetings and nothing be done. Whether or not you hear it, Mr. Mayor, I can in the audience, maybe you can up here. Also, I want to point out that the chief, Fixler, would attend these meetings as a department head. And where's the interim chief now? Nowhere to be seen. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, if not, closing remarks. We'll start off with Ward 1, Mr. Zimmerman.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first thing I would like to address is the motion that I had for with the referendum for selling the transmission lines. I didn't request that this be done. It passed, the referendum passed 370 to 351 in the election. The people have spoken. Everyone up here says they're here to listen to the people. We are here for the people. This is the vote. There are certain laws that say how an ordinance or something can be written for a referendum. It has to be written a certain way. There is no picking and choosing on how the language of that can be. The referendum was on that ordinance. That ordinance, people voted yes for that ordinance. And we took that away. However you want to say it, we took it away from people's votes. Also, if these electric meters or water meters are still being installed when we were told that there was a 2-week stop on doing them, why would they still be installed if there was a 2-week hiatus? You have to look at who's given them permission in order to do that. The company wouldn't be doing that on their own if they were told not to. Somebody had to be telling them to do that. I don't know where that order came from or who that might have come from. Maybe someone told them, didn't tell them not to stop. I don't know. Could we be getting two different things where public is told that it's stopping and it's still continuing? We don't know. But why would the company installing the meters keep doing it if they were told to stop? I just don't see that as a possibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Boriak, do you have anything?
Yeah, just a couple of things. The whole time about these smart meters, I brought up a lot of questions about no insurance on the subcontractors. Yeah, I had a guy come over to my house and with a water meter from West Virginia. You know, they hired the subbies. You know, they tried to be as nice as they could. I want to say one thing to all the public tonight. I'm afraid that if we've been dealt a hand now and we've had to play it. I want to know, I'm going to ask the city manager, how much money we are going to lose by not going through with this deal. In other words, we may not like to take the castor oil, but now we're going to have to take it. That's what I'm worried about. If it can tell me stopping the program, but I really think we're going to end up losing both ways in lawsuits and everything. Now, this referendum vote, I feel it was deceptive. And Mr. Zimmerman, did it say that we had to sell? No. It said we could look at it. It did not say, from what I know right now, from what I read, that we had to sell it. In other words, council is directed to sell that if this vote goes through. Now, let me say what Bill George said. Bill George, the future, it's not 18 people, there's only 8 communities in the state of Ohio that have all their utilities, their transmission lines. We're one of them. There's people that are, you want to call Silver Lake, you want to call Fairlawn, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. Find out how much they would love to have what we have. Now, I just don't know what we're going to do. I'd like to get some kind of, before I make a decision, we're trying to move things forward, but I'd like to know before I say scrap the program, are we going to lose more by scrapping it and going on? I do know that Ohio Edison, within the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, we're going to all be smart meters anyhow. And I want to say something to everybody tonight. I've seen some people that are really vicious and always want to badmouth somebody doing something right, but I've never seen some of them even come into this town and pick up a piece of paper or litter to help the community. It's always been one way. What can I do for myself? Well, it's not going to be that way anymore. We want to benefit the people, and we want to listen to the people. And this council will make its decisions upon what's best for the people and not a chosen few. Now, the other thing was about these, it was brought up 3 times. I hate to bring it up again. There was nothing that said that this money was going to reduce the electric rates. Who threw that idea out, 20%? I never got any paperwork that a study was done that they said, oh, here's where you're going to get your 20%. I believe what Mr. Who was it said tonight, it was good until the money ran out, if they would have put it all in there. But they weren't going to put it all in there. It was going into the general fund. So, you know, I just can't believe this stuff keeps going on and on and on. When you're caught with your hand in the cookie jar, well, so be it. You put your hand in. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Spletzer, do you have anything for Ward 3?
Yes, I would just like to also follow up with this whole meter issue. The meters were something that I know were not well received by anybody. When it first came out, there were so many roadblocks and hurdles along the way that, of course, they made sure that they did get over those hurdles. And one of the things I wanted to discuss tonight with the city manager and the law director is I picked up a letter yesterday from one of my constituents that received it from Aclara. Aclara is sending letters out to people with this yellow and red letter highlighting, threatening that there's going to be an interruption of their water service. Now, the person called me and said, "You mean you're going to shut my water off, or they're going to shut my water off?" And I said, "No, I don't think they have the authority to do that." So we need to get something in place with these Aclara people and tell them they don't have the right to be sending out letters like this to our people. You know, the first letter, I know that she received it on November 3rd. The first letter is highlighted in yellow, says you have 2 weeks to call and get this taken care of. Well, 10 days later is when she received the second letter. So they're not even giving the full first 2 weeks. And I will vouch for Mr. Luana-Wansu, you're correct. When this whole meter stuff came out, I knew that Mr. Lynch didn't have the authority to set the opt-out rate. So I told people at that point in time, just don't do anything because he can't set the rate. And I never in a million years thought that it would have turned out by him saying, okay, the opt-out rate is $30 a month, and then it turned into something that didn't look anything like that at all. So I think we've got a mess that we need to deal with it. And one more thing about Mr. Luana-Wansu's comments about the referendums. I worked on both of those referendums, and I don't know which one of them it was, but I got 201 signatures myself on one of those referendums because people did not want these meters. Mr. George, I'm sorry, I appreciate where you're coming from. I really do think it will eventually benefit our community. I think that if we would just take a little softer approach to this and explain to them how it is going to benefit our community. Right now, I think we still feel like this is getting jammed down our throats, and it's getting jammed down by our throats by somebody we don't even know who they are. So it's unfortunate that this thing got off to the start that it did, and it wasn't well received, but I think we're in a situation now where I don't think we can afford to default on this loan. I don't think we can afford the penalties and fees that, would be a result of defaulting on the loan, and I just think there's got to be a better answer somewhere. As a matter of fact, somebody else said to me tonight that this number that's on this piece of this letter that they're sending out to people, it doesn't even ring anymore. It's a busy signal. So there are problems that need to be addressed, and I don't know if we need to get, actually, one of the letters says Brian Holcomb is the project manager. So I think we need to get the project manager here again and probably maybe address some of these issues with him, because if this is the way that these people are going to be treating the people in our community, you can see why they're continuing to give pushback. Oh, and one more thing for Mrs. Stimpert. I did happen to call the Board of Elections and I asked them when they would be certifying the votes. That's how I knew it was going to be on November 19th. I did ask if it was possible to come down and pick up their certificates. And she told me that, since I will be having a certificate to pick up too, that I could pick them up. If that's okay with you, I could pick them all up. That right there, that there would only be 3 of us, I could pick up your certificate. I'll pick up all 3 of our certificates and then we can go from there. And I can do that sometime in the afternoon. They said that there were several certificates that need to be done, so it'll be sometime in the afternoon. I'll just pick all 3 of them up, okay? That's all, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Granchi, do you have anything?
Yeah, just to piggyback on the meters. It was touched on last meeting, but Huntington Bank is tracking the fact that we are all over the place with this. And they sent an email saying, to paraphrase, The water meters and other meters are in excess of 3 million. If the village would decide to not use the funds for the intended purposes and/or return the water meters, the debt would need to be repaid prior to doing this. If not, this would be considered a breach of contract and/or default.
Right.
We're stuck.
We're stuck.
We're stuck with them. I hate to be the one to say it, but we're stuck with them. We got to figure out how to do the opt-outs at this point, but we are stuck with them, and that's just something we have to live with. There's nothing we can do about it. As far as selling the utilities, I have to disagree with my colleague. The referendum failing authorized us to sell it. It did not require us to. And as I've said for many, many, many different things since I was appointed, I don't vote on anything that I don't have the information on. And sorry, a purchase agreement is not legally binding. It does not have real numbers. It does not have anything that will actually give me enough information to think one way or the other. And as I said the last meeting, we are here to make informed decisions. And if we are not informed on how much we would be selling, how much we would be selling it for, when we would be selling it, any of that, we are not making informed decisions, and we are doing a disservice to the people of this community. Also, next Saturday in the 4th Ward, there will be the tree lighting ceremony. I was asked to read this for the Commerce Association. Said our tree lighting ceremony is November 27th from 5 to 9. It is Nutcracker themed, and the storefronts will be decorated accordingly. The tree will be lit at 7 p.m. and the roads will be closed for the event. There will be games and prizes for the kids in the center of the street. Around 6 p.m., the Newton Falls School Choir will be performing, as well as dancers from Platinum Dance Company and Mimi's Studio of Dance. There will also be carolers singing throughout the event and Christmas music playing. There will be several food vendors set up, face painting, and a petting zoo. Santa, Mrs. Claus, and the elves will be at AmVets for pictures and gifts. The Grinch will be making a special appearance too. Eric Thompson will be our master of ceremony, announcing when and where the festivities will be taking place. We also have a celebrity guest that will be walking around throughout the event. It's going to be a fun evening packed full of things to do, see, eat, and drink. The event will be broadcasted live on Facebook if you were unable to attend. If you have any questions, please call or message the Commerce Association. We hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I unfortunately will not be able to be there. I have my family Thanksgiving that day, but I hope everyone else is able to get out there for that. That's enough.
Thank you. Ms. City Manager, do you have anything? Okay, and myself, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. Thank you for your concerns. Thank individuals that tuned in on Facebook, YouTube, and I believe cable, that we actually have the cable station up and running tonight. I'm going to thank council for, all your work, and also the staff that's here. And just wanted to say that I love being your mayor. It's my hometown. I would rather live no place else, and I'm just blessed to be your mayor. And my last thing is my daughter Gabrielle. Individuals know that she's doing her stalking outreach or stalking ministry, whatever you want to call it, to the children in the community. Anybody that knows anybody that could use, child really could use a stocking, use something for Christmas, get in touch with her and see if she has any spots open. And if she doesn't, I'm sure, knowing Gabrielle, she'll do everything she can to make an extra spot for somebody. And the other thing is, anybody that would like to help partner with her to be a blessing to your community and the children here, give her a call and see if you can help bless the community and bless the children. That's all I have. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Jeez. Do we have a second?
Second, too.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
If you need a third, I'll give you that, too.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, adjourned.
Yes.
All right, I got to pee like racehorse.